Thank you, Tyler. Good afternoon to those of you in person and those of you who are participating virtually. I want to begin by acknowledging the Desko family, John, Cindy, Tim, Nicole, Casey, and Ryan. Today is the time and place to celebrate and honor one of the most successful coaching careers, not only in college lacrosse, but in the history of collegiate sports. That's the backdrop for today's event, and I encourage everyone to embrace that theme. John Desko has been part of Syracuse lacrosse for the past 46 years. Just think about that. First as a player for Coach Simmons Jr., then an assistant for Coach Simmons Jr., and the past 23 years as head coach. Syracuse lacrosse is the most storied, most successful program in history, with 11 NCAA titles. Coach Desko has been part of all 11 of those NCAA championships, including 5 as a head coach. In total, as a player, assistant coach, and head coach, John was part of 529 victories. Just think about that for a second. What a staggering number, 529 victories. As yesterday's press release noted, John coached literally hundreds of All-Americans, was National Coach of the Year twice, and was selected to the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame in 2020. John's greatest career accomplishments, it's not so much the wins and the championships, it's the thousands of young men that he coached, that he mentored, and developed at Syracuse. You've seen the tributes to Coach Desko that have been posted by his former players. They love him, respect him, and honor him. The impact he had on their lives will never diminish. In fact, it's just the opposite. The life lessons instilled by Coach Desko have as strong as influence today as they ever have for his former players. John has also had a tremendous impact and influence on our current student athletes. Like those who preceded them, they too have learned life lessons from Coach Desko that they will carry well beyond their years at Syracuse University. I've had the pleasure of working with John for almost 5 years now. He's an incredibly humble and gracious person. Let me share a quick story just to amplify on that. In 2009, Syracuse won the national championship by staging an epic comeback late in the game against Cornell and then defeating Cornell in overtime. At the time, I was at ESPN, who was televising the game, and after the game, I introduced myself to Coach Desko outside the Syracuse locker room to congratulate him on winning yet another national championship. John could not have been more engaging. He was just kind of hanging out, enjoying a post-game snack. You would never, ever have known what he and his program had just accomplished. But that typifies John Desko and who he is. Just a first-class individual. But someone who has and always will be incredibly passionate about our program, about our players, and our staff. The professional legacy he leaves is second to none. Is with Coach Simmons Jr., Coach Desko will always be part of the connective tissue that is Syracuse men's lacrosse. But for all his professional accomplishments, Coach Desko's greatest accomplishment is the devotion he has to his family. John's always had his priorities in order. Family first. A loving husband, a loving and proud father of his 4 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in honoring and recognizing a great coach, but an even better person, Coach John Desko.
Thank you. Thanks. The worst thing I did was stand in that lobby and talk to everybody coming in. I was fine today, and I stood out there and talked to everybody, and all of a sudden it became more like my first press conference than one of my last. John, you can introduce me anytime. Thank you for those words, and thank you for the help, through this process. I've had thoughts, and I've had people reach out to me, and literally thousands, and that was very emotional. To be part of so many people's lives, it started to kick in, when I started hearing from everybody. I was talking with Jimmy Boeheim the other day, and we were talking about Syracuse, and the two of us have been here a long time. And he reminded me, and he said, it's one thing, looking at what's going on right now, and wait till you make a decision. You won't believe how many people you're going to hear. That I will get back to everybody that has contacted me, and that is so much appreciated. Again, to be part of so many lives is an incredible feeling. As John mentioned, family is very important. So for pretty much all my coaching career, my wife Cindy has been there. And if you think about, I see a lot of coaches here, and our jobs, guys and girls. During our season, it's 7 days a week, and many times in the evenings too. Whether it be film or talking to recruits. And my wife's been there the whole time. Raised 4 children, gone weekends in the summertime, and again, 7 days a week during the season. So one of the things that I'm starting to get a feel for is a better appreciation for her and what she's done for me and our family. So Cindy, thank you. It's hard for me not to shed a tear here. I'm looking at the staff. It's great to get to know Pat March. He's an amazing young coach with a lot of contacts out there, and he's done a great job recruiting here, along with coaching the offense. Leland's here. Darn you, Leland! You gave me a big hug, and you started to cry, and you brought some tears out for me too. Thanks for all you've done. I think we've not only coaching staff mates, but he's become a good friend, and I'm going to be here to support him any way that I can. There have been a lot of other coaches I've been around. I want to say a special thanks. I don't think he's here today, but Kevin Donahue, who is an old teammate of mine in high school and college, and we captained the team our junior and senior years together. Later on, asked him to be part of the staff. He did. He's probably one of the best coaches I've ever been around. As far as you can coach anything, going from youth to college. So Kevin, thanks for all your help. I'm hoping you're enjoying your retirement right now too. Roy 3, get over here quick. Come on, get up. I know you're going to make me shed a tear or two. Get over here. This guy, obviously part of the Simmons family, and come here. A teammate, a friend, great friends with his father, my coach, Roy Simmons Jr. Had the absolute pleasure of spending some time with the Roy Simmons Sr. You passed the two of them on your way in out there. They're being honored in front of Ensley as they should be, and just an amazing family that has, talk about impacting lives. I don't know anyone who has impacted more lives than those guys. And there isn't. There isn't anybody that loves Syracuse lacrosse more than that guy. And Syracuse University. He can tell you more about Syracuse University than anyone I know. Heard from the chancellor. He's absolutely fantastic. Once again, he's always been there and recognized things and contacted me. He was absolutely wonderful, and I know he'll be there going forward, and I feel very comfortable talking to him. And if he doesn't pick up the phone, then I'm going to turn around and go right to Ruth, because I know I'll get some results that way. Who am I missing here? I know I'm missing Teresa in the office has been a huge help. And again, so many other coaches that have been part of this, and the support I've gotten from the coaches in the back here and other support staff has been absolutely great. Thank you very much. That's probably about it. I'd be happy to take some questions, but first I want to take this opportunity to advertise Troy. Thanks, Troy, for everything. Pete, Mike Misson, Mary Kelly, and so many others, the others. But I want to take this time to advertise. I'm going to be having a yard sale at home, and especially for those who like SU apparel, mostly extra large and some Dumble X stuff's going in there. A lot of throwback stuff. New and used. So I'll announce a date later, but love to have you. I'm so scared to go in my office and try to clean up my office and bring things home, because I've already got 46 years of stuff at home, and it seems like there's even just as much at home as there is in the office. So I'll keep you updated on the dates on that. But Tyler, I'm good here. I've talked this. I know I'm forgetting a lot of people, and I won't going forward, but thank you.
Everybody, we do have a crowd microphone, so for those of you who raise your hand, we'll take questions. Just return the microphone so we can get to the next person. We will start right back there with Steve.
Coach, congratulations on your retirement. Biggest question that I want to know, and I think a lot of us here want to know, why now? Why did this feel like the right time? We had talked to you a few times toward the end of the season. It sounded like you were looking ahead to next year and that you were planning on coming back. Why did now feel like the right time?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I almost still don't know the total answer to that. And Steve, thank you for everything. If I'm going to listen to the news, Steve's going to be one of the people I listen to. I think he carries himself with a lot of dignity and the truth, and so thanks for what you've done in the past. Great question. I'm actually, as time has gone on since the decision, and I want to thank John again. We've had some very many and very open conversation, and he's been a little bit of help there, along with talking to the staff, and we talked about my family and Cindy and all the weekends away. Summertime, you're on the road all the time. And I'm even appreciating it every day more, the time that I've had to think about it and just to be able to be with the family and home. I love to go to the lake in the summertime, so it'll be nice to do that. I've already been out there and got some projects going on, and actually walking around my own house, I'm looking going, geez, that needs to be fixed and that needs to be painted. So I'm appreciating it more every day. And I've talked with Gary Gate a few times now, and he has stressed that he'd like me around the team, obviously not in a coaching way, but he thinks it would be healthy for me to stay in contact with the guys, and I'd be happy to come to practice and point out what everybody's doing wrong. But, and the guys have been, this is such an emotional year with the team, and I've had more Zooms and conversations with the group than any other group before, given all our situations we've had to deal with in COVID this year. So there's as strong a bond, probably stronger a bond with this group than many others. And I'm going to stay and support them in any way I can. You know, with the amount of time that I've been here, I'm going to support Syracuse and Syracuse lacrosse all the way. Anything that I can do, I will help. You know, whether it's be advice, maybe some fundraising. So yeah, I think it's a good time. I've had a lot of conversations with people, and that's helped me come to that decision. So I hope that answers your question.
Camera here, so if you could stand up as you're taking your questions so we can get you on the stream as well. We'll go to Nico and then Lindsay.
Can you want me to stand up then?
Yeah, please.
John, congrats on the retirement.
You're taller than I thought.
I'm really not that tall at all. No, you wouldn't have recruited. So anyway, you know, you mentioned to Steve, you know, why the timing was now. After 46 years, the competitive juice is flowing as they are, obviously. How difficult was that to make right now at the time?
Easier than I thought. You know, easier than I thought. And again, as I'm not packing and rushing out the door to, you know, hop in the car and drive somewhere or hop on a plane, I'm kind of going, wow, this is kind of nice right now. You know, be around the family more and home and trying to get out to the lake. So I guess that's it, you know. I'm enjoying, I know I'm going to enjoy it more. And the fact that if I can stay involved and help the team, then that's going to kind of ease my way out of it. Thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, you know, clearly when we talked at the end of the regular season, you flat out said, I want to come back. You know, last week you're down on Long Island meeting with Joey Spallina. Could you take us a little more through that timing? Because did your talks with John influence you at all? Could you have come back this year if you wanted? It just seems like an awful quick turnaround from I'm coming back to I'm done.
Well, it was more, I guess, more so with our conversations that helped me come to that conclusion. So that's really the gist of it. I don't know what else to add to that. I think so. Yeah.
We're going to go to Mark Larson back next.
Hey, John, congratulations.
Thanks, Mark.
People always ask at these things, do you have one special memory or what will you think of as far as program-wise? What kind of impact were you able to make on this program? How proud are you of what you've accomplished? Not just the titles, but everything.
Well, I think as I alluded to earlier, with all the messages that I've gotten and the people that I've yet to get back to, I'm starting to realize that it's never, I learned from Roy Jr. that it's never really about I or me. I learned from him, he always used the word we, and so I think it was we as a group, with past coaches and alumni and administration. I think back to, I've been here with a lot of athletic directors and a lot of chancellors, and I've tried to learn from all of them. So I'm really proud of everything that we've accomplished. I gave Roy III a big hug here. He's been with me, us together, thick and thin, and so very proud of it. And that's I'm appreciating that more every day now. As Jim B. and I talked about. The more conversations and the more thoughts that I hear from people, that's sinking in more and more. So I'm really proud of it. Thanks for asking, Mark. I miss those TV shows.
John, I was wondering, you're the fourth head coach here, and since 1916. Gary becomes the fifth. How important was it to you once you realized you were going to step down that they kept it in the family? And what do you think about somebody of Gary's stature now taking over the program?
I'm so happy with that. I see many benefits going forward. And, Gary Chury was a player of mine and Roy's. I remember going to Canada years ago, it was a Canadian festival, and there were these two big twins up there that were dominating, and Paul would run over people, and Gary would run around people, and their how they functioned on the field together was absolutely amazing. So, and then for them to come here, I felt like we were cheating when we were playing. To have those. I remember Gary coming over to Roy and myself after the game that we lost in their freshman year in the championship game. And Gary came over to Roy and goes, "Geez, now that I know what this is all about, I'll make sure that we don't lose another one." And that was pretty amazing, and we didn't. And again, having those guys to be so dominating. I remember he was always superstitious about wearing, whatever, it was a pair of shoes or shirt or something. And their sophomore year, I had no superstitions. I just wore whatever I wanted to every day because I knew we were going to win. And I didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So very important. I think it's great for alumni. Gary and his wife Nicole, not only alumnus and player coach, but Gary's become a friend, and Nicole is a good friend of my wife Cindy, and I look forward to we meet at the lake every so often, and I look forward to doing that again in the future, hopefully this summer. I don't know the difference between women's recruiting and men's recruiting, so I don't know if he's going to have to be away from home more than he was in the past. I'm sure it's very similar with the amount of tournaments and everything on the road, but very important. It's great to have him there. I think it'll be seamless. And again, I'm here to help and support him in any way. I've talked to a lot of recruits. Up till this morning, I've been talking to recruits and been talking to him and filling him in on the classes that we have coming in. And I've talked to those recruits and let them know I'm very comfortable with this. I'm going to be around in some aspect, and I'm going to watch you grow and get better and win championships. And I'm going to help in that process and any other here, and especially for Gary. So all good stuff.
A Zoom question. I'm not going to turn the mic on it to avoid the feedback here, but looking back over your past 30-plus years, you've had the opportunity to be part of thousands of people's lives during their formative years of their careers. What moments and specific feelings do you have as you look back on that? And that's from Patrick Gunn at 247.
I'm looking back, but I'm also looking forward because, as I've touched on already, there have been so many messages and calls and emails and so on that I'm gaining more of an appreciation for that as we go on here. I never really liked talking about myself. Again, I think it was more about we, and but I'm realizing how important that is, that I've been part of people's lives, and I have heard from so many that said that that I've had that we've touched on what they're doing today and how they react with their families and so on. So it's very heartfelt and getting better every day.
Nate Mink and then Dan Tortora.
Hey, John, earlier you touched about how close this year's group was to you, maybe more than any other group. How did you inform your current guys that you were making this decision, and in what setting was that message delivered?
Well, as far as being with the guy, I know I had a nice get-together with a number of the seniors a couple weeks ago. It was great because they were on their way home for the summer, and it was great reconnecting with them. It had to be Zoom because everybody, was home. So we had a Zoom with the group and, talked to them about how much they've meant to me and us. And I've been hearing from them daily on an individual basis. So it's great to hear from them.
Emotional?
Very. Yeah, it's becoming very emotional. Again, I never should have walked through that lobby. I should have come in through the side door today. I had no, coming in, didn't have any emotions really too much coming in other than, gratitude, and then reconnecting with everybody has been interesting. It's been great.
Dan?
On just what you can say about, I mean, being a part of this for so long, the impact, the biggest impact that maybe someone's had on your life when you look back on people that inspired you, and then the impact that you feel you're leaving with Syracuse lacrosse.
It's a great question. You know, I came to Syracuse. I wasn't going to come to Syracuse, and then my high school coach, Bill Wormuth, was an All-American here, and he knew Roy Jr. very well. And I think he talked to Roy, and then I got a call from Roy. You know, the team wasn't doing great back in those days, and a handful of Central New York lacrosse is good today, but I think tremendous then. And a handful of us decided to come to Syracuse. Then another handful decided to come, and again, like Roy 3, you know, I think we formed a pretty tight bond, and then after we finished our eligibility, Roy Jr. asked me to stay on, and it was great. And 4 years later, we won a national championship, and then we've been able to kind of keep going from there. So I've gotten to see Syracuse lacrosse, you know, kind of down here and have it reach the pinnacle. So I have a real appreciation for that. So it's all just been growing, and again, not right now, with time to think about it and hearing from everybody, it's really starting to set in. I'm sorry, I probably missed your question there a little bit.
Just what you can say about who impacted you the most and how you feel you've impacted overall.
Yeah, I think that my parents, first of all, John and Eileen, they did. They have. Syracuse. I came to Syracuse, and it was my parents paid the freight here, obviously, and it was great for them to give me that opportunity. I think there were other choices that maybe wouldn't have been financially as tough on the family, so I have always appreciated that. And Roy Simmons Jr. Had a huge impact. I mean, you know, he was my coach, and then we coached together for 19 years. I'm still thinking about, talk to Roy, and I think about him now. He's had a procedure done, and he's getting better, so I look forward to getting together with him when he's out and about, and looking forward to sitting in the Carrier Dome. Hopefully he'll let me in his box so I can watch from up above. So I think those people and other, you know, there've been other coaches, other athletic directors that I've had communication with, and they've all had, you know, a little impact on my life. But I think my parents and, you know, you know, to be here, I coached my son for 4 years. I mean, how many people have that experience at the, you know, especially at the Division I level? So that was, you know, tremendous for me to be part of his life. And, you know, a lot of guys will go off to college, or their sons or daughters will go off to college, and you don't have as much communication. So to see him on a daily basis was special. So I think those people, you know, my parents, Roy Jr., were huge and are a huge part of that.
We'll take a few more minutes here. We'll start with Donna.
Hello, John. Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
You know, you mentioned talking to Gary about having a role with the program once you have retired, and you know, Roy Jr. was the same way when he retired, and he was around the program quite a bit. I'm wondering if that relationship with Roy Jr. and the relationship you're hoping to have with Gary are sort of similar, and what kind of advice, kinds of things that did Roy Jr. talk to you about, and what kinds of things may you talk to Gary about?
Well, I think there'll be more. I hope there'll be more discussions about that. Every indication is there will be. And again, Gary and I, you know, have sat around the fire for a number of summers now, and hung out and talked. So I think he'll be very open, and I want him to be very, very comfortable asking questions. And we've already, I think, through this process so early on, for me to have discussions with him and let him know how we're doing with the recruits. And I know that he's been in contact with our recruits now, which is his recruits now, which is very important. So I think he'll be open. Yeah, boy, I couldn't get Roy Jr. to practice, or I'm more of an X's and O's guy, and he is hell and brimstone guy, and no one fires up a team like Roy Jr. And it's I suppose maybe, especially when we were coaching together, his strength, and I would focus a little bit more on the X's and O's, and that's kind of carried over. I've tried to be a little more fiery with the guys, but I think that the team themselves, when they get themselves going, is the most important thing. But you know, in the whole staff, we all handle an aspect of the game. We're all different, personality-wise and emotionally, and how we connect with the guys. So it's been a real healthy combination of staff as far as the group goes.
We will go to Brent and then Mark and back.
John, you've spent many of the offseason discussing rule changes, trying to improve the game. Is there anything in particular you're most proud of that influenced the sport of lacrosse?
That's a good question. You know, I was on the rules committee for a bit, and we actually at that time, Dom Starja and I were on it together, and we actually voted in the shot clock. This is years ago, and I think there was an uproar when we put that in. And I looked at Dom after the meetings, and I said, geez, we're going to walk out of here, and you might be my only friend when we walk out of here, because it was so drastic at that time to put in a shot clock. And we thought it was best for the game at that time. And there were a lot of teams at different levels. The whole strategy was just to hold the ball. And it ended up going back on that, not Dom and I, but there were other aspects of it that, you know, as far as cost and shot clocks and things like that, a lot of coaches were in uproar. Not only, you know, Dom and I talked, we still talk, but you had Syracuse and Virginia coaches implementing a rule to make the game faster. And we were by far the fastest playing teams in the country. I remember playing UVA in the Dome early in the season. I don't know, what was it, Roy? 22-21 at the end of the day, and you know, Casey Powell's got whatever 100 points. And at the same day, and this is not to put down those programs, at the time, same day was an overtime game like our game was with Hopkins and Princeton. It was overtime, and the score was 7-6. So just to give you a little background there, that's the philosophy of the coaches and how they wanted to play. And my carryover was from Roy Simmons Jr. And so you can imagine when Syracuse and Virginia put in the shot clock, and the rest of the world looking at us going, this is very self-serving. So I thought we were very brave or stupid to do that. And finally, I think a lot of it came out of when they put the shot clock in, and a lot of it came from our Maryland game. And Maryland was holding the ball for literally 5 minutes at a time on their possessions. And there are only 15 minutes in a quarter, so that would turn the game into 3 possessions in a quarter. And if my math is right, that's 12 possessions on the game. That's a terrible game to watch. So I think a lot of that, the shot clock came in. I thought that was, you know, a good thing. I think the face-off has to be addressed. You know, you look across the board this year, the new face-off rule was supposed to make it more equal. Winning percentages were higher for certain face-off guys than ever before. They almost always won their games. You look at some of the games we lost, the number of possessions that the other team played. I was watching, I think it was Duke and Carolina, and all of a sudden, you know, it's a 3-3 game, and all of a sudden, Carolina wins the next 7 face-offs. It's 10-3, and an awful lot for a good team to try to come back on that, even if they did start equally on the face-offs.
John, I'm going to use Bill Tierney as an example. He was Princeton lacrosse, and then nobody thought he'd leave, and he left and went to Denver and had success there. You're still relatively young guys, especially compared to Coach Boeheim, who you mentioned. I'm not saying next spring, but can you rule out ever coaching somewhere else again?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I think a lot will depend on, going forward here, if there can be, some kind of role here at Syracuse and how I adapt to my life. I mean, I talked about it literally 7 days a week, and I don't know how many of us, well, maybe a lot of us do, especially the coaches in the room, have jobs where you're there 7 days a week and a lot of overtime. So I think I'm going to sit back and I can't imagine having a weekend off. Oh my gosh, this is special. So we'll see. I hadn't thought about it. No.
Two more, starting with Lindsay.
Hi. So you've been here 46 years. I'm assuming the same office, the same building, the same orange gear. You're walking around. I don't know if you've packed up yet or you're packing up yet. When you're just by yourself and you walk around this place, you've been forever, apart from the questions, the media, the wins, losses, honestly, what is going through your mind in these last few days or today?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I still walk through, go to my office, and I looked in the closet and looked at my desk, and I go, oh my gosh, I don't have any idea what I'm going to do with all this stuff. And then, I walk through it in here, just to be in here. I've spent so much time in here with the group and the coaches. That's why I'm happy that Gary's would like to see me once in a while, and I'd like to come in and chat with other coaches and help them if they can with any questions. I've tried to do that with new coaches coming in. There's every school is different, so that you have to know how to deal with the financial aid office, how to combine aids. You got to know who to go talk to, given certain situations. So I'm here to help people, and good question. It's weird in a way. It's appreciative, and I'm gonna, the coffee's free for me here, so. I'm outraged. I'll go to places and all of a sudden it's $5 for a cup of coffee. So I think I'll come through, maybe grab one and sit with John, then refill it when I go home so that I'll have one for the next morning.
Time for one more if anybody's got it. Otherwise, I just want to thank everybody for coming today, and obviously thank Coach Desko for a tremendous 46-year career and taking the time one last time for one more press conference with us. Good? Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to really miss working with Tyler, although I'm sure we'll take on some projects together, and Sue Edson.
Yeah, you're not getting rid of me, Coach.
Sue hasn't been here as long as I have, but she's one of the good ones, along with Tyler.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate the time.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated.